Let's talk about another navigation tool in this video, one that you can use in 90-Second Website Builder. Hi again, it's Greg Hughes. I want to show you a very simple tool to use called the text menu. If you click on it in the navigation section of the toolbox and drag a box, you'll be able to create a text menu. Now a text menu is actually a very simple item. It's basically a menu item that's made up of just standard text hyperlinks, except that they're contained all in one object. And you can do some special things with the text menu. If we double click on it, we can look at the settings. And just as you would imagine, you can select the items. It's given you 4, but you can change that, of course. You can add or remove whatever you want. And you can edit these. Obviously, you want to change these to your navigation. You can do that by double clicking or by clicking the edit link and setting up your links here. Also, in the Style tab, you can decide what you want this text menu to look like. You can change the font, its size, its alignment, and its style. Now, what's a link style? A link style is a predetermined style for a hyperlink. You use the Style Manager to create your own styles for hyperlinks. In other words, they don't always have to be blue text with an underline. You can make your hyperlinks look any way you want. And the text menu includes this in its settings. Right now I don't have a link style chosen. Obviously it says none. But if I pull down, I can select any of the link styles that I've already created in my project. Let me show you how I did that. If we go to Edit Styles, this is a shortcut to the Style Manager. You can also just go up to the menu and pull up the Style Manager if you want. But this is where you create your hyperlink styles. And these are the ones that I've created, and this is what I've named them, because I want these to look a certain way on the page. So for example, this one down here, this is Links Gray. I've called it that because this is what I want the links to look like. More of a gray font with the underline showing on the hover. You can see what I've done if I click the edit link, and this is where I created this hyperlink style. You can do the same with the Style Manager, and you can get to the Style Manager right here within the text menu. So you may not have any link styles, but you can create them right there. So in fact, let's select one of these. I'll use the Links Gray. We can see what that does. If I click OK, you can see that it's now changed the way it looks. And if we click F5, this menu will behave the way I wanted it to. That's the style I created in the Style Manager with that underline effect. Let's close this and go back to our settings. The other thing I can do in the Style tab is I can set the delimiters. Those are those little brackets that are surrounding the text objects. You can use them or not. If you don't want to use them, you would just make these fields blank, or you can change them to something else. I could put colons in there if I wanted to. Click OK, and I've changed my delimiters. I can also affect the way they look, their color, or I can make sure that they are included in the link itself. If I click this button, and then we click F5, now my delimiters will be actually part of the link. As you can see, they line up with the link. So the text menu has a few cute tricks that you can play with. I'm going to check this off, and I'm going to empty this, just clicking the backspace, to have no delimiters. The other thing I want to show you under the General tab is something that's a very important aspect to the text menu. There are a few navigation tools in 90-Second Website Builder that have an extra special ability in them, and the text menu is one of them. Another one would be the responsive menu or the CSS menu. These are my favorites because they make responsive web design a little bit easier. Let me show you why. I'm going to click OK, and we're going to set this text menu aside. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to it and make it a little bit bigger. I'll just add some links here just as a demonstration. Click OK, and let's do one more. Let's see. Let's stretch this out so we can see it. I'm just putting some text in here right now because I want the menu to be a little bit long. Here we go. So we're going to stretch it out so we can see it all. And by the way, we can separate these with the spacing. Let's change this. And they're a little bit separated. Let's also change the font size so we can see this a little bit better. I'm going to go to Style, and let's make the font be about 12. Okay, let's stretch this out so we can see all of the text. There we go. Let's say I wanted to use this on my website. Click F5, test it out. It's working great. All my links are working. But what if I was building a responsive website? I would have to add some breakpoints. So let's do that. I'm going to add a 320 breakpoint and work on my smartphone sized variation. Well, this is where responsive objects come in really handy, because since this object is too wide for a 320 breakpoint, I'm not going to be able to use it in the state that it's in. Now, if I switch back to my default size for my bigger page, it's going to be just fine. It fits in here just great. But this is a responsive object, which means that it's smart enough to be able to change to a different orientation when it's in a smaller breakpoint. Here's what I mean. I'm going to double click on this, and I'm going to tell the text menu to, instead of being horizontal or vertical, which I can have it be if I want, if I did that, it would look like this. And of course, that would be great in my 320. But what if I don't want it to be vertical in my default size? Well, what I can do is, instead of choosing vertical or horizontal, I can let the object decide by saying, let's make it responsive. Now I'm going to click OK, stretch this back out, and we're going to let it decide what it's going to be. In my wider page variation, I want it to be horizontal, but when we're working in our 320, I want it to be vertical. And look what it did. It automatically became vertical. I just need to stretch it out like this. Now here's why this is important. This is the same object. This object right here in the 320 is the same object as this one. If you look down in my object manager, I don't have two text menus. I have only one, and it's visible in both variations. So here it is in the default size page. I'll switch to 320, and here it is, the same object in the 320. This is what happens when you're using an object that is inherently responsive, and the text menu has this ability. By simply telling it to respond right here, it will decide when it needs to switch its orientation from horizontal to vertical. That's very, very handy, because if it wasn't able to do that, you would have to actually have two different text menus, one that you would hide in the 320 and one that you would show, and it just makes it a little bit harder to do. And some objects require that. But when you're using the text menu, or when you're using the CSS menu or the responsive menu, all three of those have this ability to be responsive. So that's one of the great things about using the text menu. If you're just looking for very simple, clean navigation that is also easy to use on a responsive page, the text menu is the tool you want to use in 90 Second Website Builder.